The ancient Greek play Lysistrata was written by Aristophanes, a Greek playwright of the time. It was performed and shown in 411 BC at the Lena festival in Athens, but it was written during the final years of the war and division between Athens and Sparta. The setting for this play is the same as the setting of the time. The play is about an Athenian woman named Lysistrata who brings together the women of Greece through a sex strike to put an end to the Peloponnesian War. Even though there was a rivalry and war going on between Athens and Sparta, Lysistrata still managed to persuade an end to the war and make their men realize the dangers they were putting all of Greece in. Lysistrata's role in the play is very important in society because Lysistrata is a catalyst for uniting not only Greece and ending the war, but also uniting all the women of Greece through empowerment.
The play, however, doesn't begin this way. In fact, some of the women themselves believed women to be incapable of achieving their demands from the sex strike. One skeptical woman was Calonice, and this becomes apparent in a conversation between Lysistrata and Calonice early on in the play. For among men we have a reputation for sly trickery, and rightly too, on my word. Calonice later states, but what could woman do that's clever or distinguished? We just sit around all dolled up in silk robes, looking pretty in our sheer gowns and evening slippers. Calonice not only represents the skepticism that the woman felt at the start of Lysistrata's pitch, but the sexist mindsets she had internalized.
They said they would do anything to end the war, but when Lysistrata told them her plan, they refused to do it. Lysistrata was outraged at them and told them about the role of what being a true woman is. After an inspiring speech they received, they agreed with the plan. I'd climb up Mount Tigris if I could catch a glimpse of peace. Goodness, yes, I'd do it, even if I had to pawn my dress and get drunk on the spot. And even if I had to let myself be split into two like a flounder. We'd do it, if it kills us. But when Lysistrata told them her plan, they refused to do it. I won't do it. Let the war go on. Anything else you like, I'm willing, even if I have to walk through fire. Anything rather than sex.
Lysistrata was outraged at them and told them about how disappointing the role of a true woman is in society, referring to being nothing but love affairs and bassinets. But after the inspiring speech they received, they agreed with the plan and took an oath. Place all your hands on the cup, and one of you repeat on behalf of what I say. Then all will swear and ratify the oath. They all repeated what she said and drank the wine to finalize the oath.
After their oath, the women decided they were going to take over the ancient citadel known as the Acropolis as a symbol of their growing power. The men tried to take back the Acropolis by putting logs in the fire pot and blowing the fire to make it bigger. The women noticed the fire by the gate because of the big clouds of smoke in the sky. This led to an argument between the leader of men and the leader of women. However, the women were now powerfully united and there was no turning back from their demands to unite Athens and Sparta once and for all. After enough time passes, the women are victorious and the women negotiate peace.
Despite the old age of the play, the highlighted concepts from it remain prevalent today. Sex strikes have been used in the real world in our generation. In 2011, a group of Colombian women began a sex strike called Crossed Legs Movement. Their main goal was to deprive men of sex to encourage the government to fix the condition of our road. The road is essential for people in the remote village to gain access to medical help. The road's poor conditions combined with the government's refusal to fix the problem stripped the village's children of their right and access to health care. But because of the sex strike the women in this area executed, Colombia agreed to fix their road.
Spike Lee also directed a film called Chirac to address the gang violence that ran rampant in the south side of Chicago. The film is a modern-day recreation of the play Lysistrata. The women of the film united from opposing gangs, thus uniting Chicago, as women of the Greece united in Lysistrata, in order to peacefully perform a sex strike for a safer environment for children of Southside Chicago. In addition to this film, there have been many other theater adaptations of Lysistrata with different settings, time periods, and contexts.
The fall of the Berlin Wall is another example of unification that can be paralleled to Lysistrata. In November of 1989, as tensions from the Cold War began to die down, the spokesperson for East Berlin's Communist Party announced they were going to be opening the border between East and West Berlin. More than 2 million people flooded to the wall and crossed the border, partaking in a huge celebration that one journalist called the greatest street party in the history of the world. People destroyed the wall with hammers and cranes, and finally Berlin was united for the first time since 1945. It is said that somebody spray-painted a piece of the wall with "Only today is the war really over." This is a powerful statement that definitely translates to Lysistrata. Only after the women of Greece united and took responsibility for their country and their people could they end the war and unite Greece. We can also visually connect the Acropolis to the Berlin Wall. Lysistrata is not only about the unification of a country. Lysistrata highlights female empowerment as a means of achieving unification through equality. During World War II, women gathered together and substituted for men in the workforce while they went out to fight in the war. They successfully kept the economy stable by completing hard, physically demanding work that was previously believed to be a job only cut out for men. Even while women were completing their jobs just as well as men could have, many men still had a problem with women's sudden rise in power. This can be shown in a propaganda video from 1944, which was supposed to help the men who had to adapt to hiring women instead of men.
There are some new and different problems, Joe. I'll admit that.
Women scare me. At least, they do in a factory.
Well, maybe the women are scared too, Joe. Let's see. Most of them are working on their first industrial jobs, Joe. It's a totally unfamiliar world. You see, they're not naturally familiar with mechanical principles nor machines. Why, even the language applying to common processes and tools are new to them.
It must sound like double talk to them.
These closed-minded mindsets can be translated to the mindsets held by women in the beginning of Lysistrata and the men in the play who believed that war wasn't a concern of women and that their role was strictly within the kitchen and the bedroom.
In this era of American history, World War II, we were introduced to the pop culture icon of Rosie the Riveter on the famous "We Can Do It" poster to counteract the sexist mindsets that many people still harnessed. The outcome of these events led to women having more opportunities outside of home and in the workforce, further emphasizing the idea which first arose from Lysistrata, that war can also be the concern of women. And after World War II, although women were essentially kicked out of the factory jobs they held while men were away, women had learned their potential and began to rise in employment.
Although even today we haven't reached total equality between the sexes, we still can reflect on how far we've come and trace back the beginning of feminist movement all the way back to ancient Greece in Lysistrata, which not only unite the women of Greece but begin a shift in tides for women throughout history and into today, right alongside the unification of the country of Greece.